There in LA, everything good?
Everything's fine. I mean, all things considered.
Right, right. So, Brendan, it's a pleasure you doing this. Welcome to Drums en Español. Um, Take it from who you are, like where you're from and whatnot.
Where am I from? Well, you're in New York, right?
That's correct, Bronx, New
Well,
York.
Bronx. I grew up in Jersey, New Jersey. I was born in Morristown. That's about, for people who aren't familiar with that, that's about 40 minutes west of Manhattan.
Hmm.
And I grew up in a town called Mount Arlington. Shout out to my peeps there. It's a tiny town. I don't know who would be listening to this, but uh, but my parents still live there, so I go back once or twice a year. And so yeah, I spent all my whole childhood in the New Jersey, New York area, and when I turned 18 and graduated from high school, I moved to Miami. I wanted to study at the music school there, so the University of Miami School of Music. I think it's called Frost now.
Okay,
And so I that was awesome. I loved living in Miami. I made a lot of Puerto Rican friends when I was there, and
absolutely.
all sorts of Latinos. And yeah, I lived there for almost a decade, and then I moved to LA after that. I wanted to change from Florida, and I figured I would go someplace else. And I thought I could either go back to New York or I can go someplace new. So I decided to try something new and go to the West Coast, and I've been here ever since. I love it.
Does it work better for you being on the West Coast for recording and when prepping for a tour or anything like that? Is it better being on the West Coast than on the East Coast?
I don't know if it's better because who's to say? You know, I live here, and I don't know what my career would be like if I had moved to back to New York in 2004. But living here, I think the deciding factors for me were most of the albums that were being made and most of the session musicians I was checking out, and a lot of the studios I liked and the artists I liked were all based out of LA at the time. And this is like around maybe 98 to 2004. I feel like a lot of the music I was into recording wise and artist wise was coming out of either London or LA. So I thought I'll either move to London or LA. And LA was a little easier.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so,
And warmer though.
and yeah, so it's been great. And yeah, this definitely does have its own scene. It has a good recording scene. It has a good original music scene. A lot of tours come out of here. But that being said, I know a lot of successful musicians working in New York City too, or other cities. And so I don't know if one is necessarily better than another, but it's just what worked for me at the time.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this, because you're most known for playing with Shakira, which is a massive gig. But you do your studio session. You have your own studio. Like, what is your creative process when you're in the studio, making music for others or making music for yourself?
Oh, good question. No one's ever asked me that before. I
Woo.
think, yeah, I think I have a workflow that seems to work well with the artists because this is remote recording. Remote recording for people who don't know what that means is I have my own studio with my drums and percussion all mic'd up, and people email me their half-finished songs and ask me to, instead of going to a recording studio that costs thousands of dollars, could I do the drum tracks from my home studio? And so I do it all by myself, which means I engineer by myself and I kind of produce it by myself. And so there's a lot of alone time where you're trying to pick the right snare sound,
Right.
the right arrangement, the right drum fill, the right everything. And depending on the artist, some artists, whatever I do, they're like, that's fantastic, great. And I'm like, anything else?
That's
No
it.
suggestions? Okay.
Cool.
And then other people are pickier. And I know I tend to figure out who's the picky person, and I like to get that. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just like to know if they really like a certain drum sound. I ask them, have you been checking out any drum sounds lately that you really love? And if so, send it my way. If they say, oh, I love the new Muse album, or I love the whatever, I love Juanes's last record. Whatever they say, I'm like, cool. That gives me a starting point to what they dig, so I won't go a totally different direction. You know, I won't give them, you know, whatever Zeppelin if they're listening to Lady Gaga or something.
Right.
And then, and also I asked them, you know, like, you know, I guess things like sonically what they like, arrangement wise what they like, and some demos just come to me as maybe a voice and acoustic guitar, and I have to put the whole thing arrangement together myself. Some songs come nearly complete, like basically the whole song is complete except they want to replace the electric drums with acoustic drums or something. So then I more just follow what has already been the map that has already been laid out in front of me, and I just try to get it as close to that, but with more organic sounds. So that's usually my approach to recording at home. And then what I do is, you know, I get the drum sounds that I like, and I play the song several times until I feel very comfortable. And then I record several takes, and I pick either my favorite take or my favorite couple takes, and I blend it together, and then I mix it and send them a version. I'm like, here's what I'm doing. Is this cool, or should I go in a different direction? And usually 9 times out of 10, they're like, great, we love it. And then I send them the actual high fidelity files through a service like WeTransfer or something.
So you send the stem of each channel, and I would love to go into this nerdy recording thing because
I can go deep with you.
Oh man.
Yeah. So what I do is basically. The sessions I get from people could be in any state. It could be a really crappy MP3, or they could send me a full multiple gigabyte Pro Tools session with 40 tracks.
All right, so let's start there. You're a Pro Tools guy.
Yeah.
Can we run through your recording chain? Mac,
sure.
Mac, Focusrite. I mean, what is your...
Well, okay, the signal path, for people who don't know what we're talking about, we're going from drum to microphone to cable to whatever boxes get into your computer. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. So I have many drum sets, many cymbals, many snare drums, many types of heads. So that all gets sorted out depending on the style of music I'm trying to do. If it's very acoustic-y or very hi-fi, very rock, very soft and folky, whatever. And then the microphones I have are pretty much your standard go-to drum microphones. Like I have 3 microphones on the kick drum right now. I mean, it always changes, but today I have an AKG D112 near the hole. I have near the head of the bass drum. It's a FET 47. And away from the bass drum is one of those NS10 speaker cones that people use.
Yeah.
Mine's
like
the old school one.
Sub mic type thing.
Sub mic, yeah. I mean, and now companies are making those sub kicks, but back in the day, you actually had to make your own.
Right.
You took a speaker cone and soldered a microphone cable to it. And
yes.
I did that, and it sounds great. It works like a microphone.
I need to make me one of those.
It's so easy. Yeah. I was going to buy one, and an engineer just said, dude, don't buy it. Just make one. I'm like, no, I'm going to buy one. He goes, dude, just make one. It's so easy. I'm like, all right. And he was right. I did it in like an hour. But let's see. I like, right now I use 3 mics on the snare drum, which is crazy. But I fiddled with it enough where I got like top mic is a 57.
Classic.
Bottom mic is an SM81.
Classic.
And on the side, I basically mic the side of the shell.
Okay.
Which and I use a Shure KSM 137, and this is so nerdy. I bet we've lost half of your audience already.
Please give me more of this. Please give me, because you know who's the next one, and hopefully he's listening to this. But Mike Dawson, you're next.
Oh, Mike's great.
Oh yeah, he's also a geek of recording.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're in good company then. So. Yeah. So right now I have 3 mics on the snare drum. It really gets a nice picture of what a snare drum sounds like, because sometimes the top mic only goes pong, and sometimes the bottom mic only goes. But if you do that with the side of the shell, it sounds like, and it's really great. But you have to work on phase. You have to work on make sure all the mics work together.
I never seen that approach of having a mic to the body of the drum.
Yeah, it's right here. I don't know if you can see that.
What? Oh, that's
I didn't invent that. I've seen other people do it. What happened was, but for me, it was an accident because I wanted. For a while, I was using 2 top snare mics, a dynamic and a condenser, and I just had a real hard time getting them to work in phase. Like they would always be slightly kind of sounding. So I said, screw this. And I'm going to put it somewhere else. And I put it near the side of the shell because I've seen other engineers do that. And it sounded bonkers good. It was so great. But who knows? Maybe a year from now, I'll say that's the worst idea ever. I'm taking that off. Sonics, it's all subjective. It's
Of
all
course,
whatever you
of
like.
course.
Top of the toms is Sennheiser 421s. As overheads over my cymbals, I have a pair of AKG XL2s. I'm sorry, 414 XL2s.
XY space pair.
Oh, space pair.
All right.
Yeah, and then in the corners of my room, I have room mics kind of like shoved as far away as I can. These are those Cascade Fathead ribbon mics.
Uh huh.
And
Those are gorgeous mics, man.
Yeah, I have a kind of like in front of my kit, but a little farther away is a mono room mic. That's just a TLM 103 with a little bit of compression on it, like built in. Like I just send it in that way. In the bathroom, in the next room over, I have a mic also. That's a CAD. I can't remember the name, but it's basically their version of a 414.
But
I have that just basically super far away, and it sounds very reverby and echoey.
I mean, it's a bathroom. What other place more reverby than a bathroom?
Yeah, and if you put that up loud, it actually has a delay with the rest of your kit. It's like waka, waka, waka. So sometimes it doesn't work. You have to kind of tuck it down, like maybe like seriously, like 80% quieter than the rest of your mics, or else it sounds kind of bizarre sometimes. But it's nice just to have some length and space to your drum sounds, especially if you're recording at home, because you're not getting that gigantic Studio A, sound. You're trying to recreate that at home.
You don't have a 12-foot ceiling. You don't have you don't have wood wall to wall that those rooms in LA that allows you to.
Yeah. So signal chain. So we got those. So we got the cables that are running into my preamps.
So we're talking about 16 mics, give or take.
Yeah, that's 16. I have 16 channels right now, which could be overkill. I could probably do it with 8, but I like experimenting.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, I have all these effects mics too that I don't have hooked up right now. I forgot to tell you about the hi-hat mic is an SM81 also. But I have all these like cheap mics that have all sorts of weird things that just I lay on the floor, but they're not plugged in right now, depending on the project, just for more loopy sounds. So I got 8 hardware preamps. They're mostly Brent Averils and Chandlers.
Okay.
And I also have an Apollo 8P, which is my next set of 8 preamps. So basically, that is my AD device for people that are wondering. So it's eight hardware preamps going into a Apogee Rosetta 800, and then another 8 preamps coming using my Apollo 8P. Apollo. And then that goes into my, I have an iMac Macintosh, like a big iMac one, it's super solid. I was going to get one of those. At the time, it was when that lunch, what they call the trash can Macintosh.
Oh, yeah, the 2013 ones, yeah.
I was going to get that one, and people were like, dude, don't get that. Just get the iMac. It's really good. I'm like, man, I don't know. They were all right. This iMac is a killer computer.
Absolutely.
It does everything I need. And then I use, on this, I have every software that people use. I have Ableton, Logic, Pro Tools, and I have all these other ones too. But I would say 80% of the time, I'm using Pro Tools. So every now and then I fiddle with Ableton or Logic or something else. But
so if a client sends you a whole session on Ableton or in Logic, you're able to do so because you do have the capability, but you feel more comfortable doing Pro Tools.
I feel, I started on a program called Studio Vision, which doesn't even exist anymore. And then I switched to a program called Digital Performer.
Dude, I used that one in college. My God.
It was great for MIDI programming.
Yeah.
And then I switched to Pro Tools only because everybody else was using it. And I feel like I need to learn these key commands. I need to learn all this stuff. I'll go to a studio sometimes where I need to run the session, and I don't know what I'm doing, so I need to learn this. So I learned, and now I realize it's so easy. Pro Tools is so easy.
All right.
And but I do like using Ableton for certain things, like sometimes writing. I'll use Ableton or Logic. I mean, there's software samplers and software instruments are so easy and sound
Right.
cool, and they're very inspirational. So if you just want to open up a session and just start fiddling around with a bass sound and some keyboard arpeggiators, Ableton and Logic are just great for that.
Right.
And so it's more for like a writing or an electronic thing. I'll go with that. If I'm just going to record acoustics, like acoustic drums, acoustic guitar, electric bass, electric guitar, I will immediately go to Pro Tools over any of those other programs. I use it more like a tape machine.
Do you see yourself fiddling with Luna anytime soon? I mean, you're using an Apollo.
I have Luna. I messed with it for a day. It was fun. And I bet if I needed to, I just messed with it for curiosity's sake. I did have a client send me a session on Luna already.
Wow,
and
that's quick.
I poked around. It was fun, but I didn't see why yet I would need that over the programs I already have.
But
so maybe someday it's just going to be so good and so easy and sounds so good that people will drop everything else. But all the software, there's other ones too, but all the software is like survival of the fittest. It's like whichever one is the best and works the best and provides the best workflow is the one that rises to the top,
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, your art form and your hands and what you produce is what makes the music. Is not made on Pro Tools or made on Logic. Is what you make with it.
Yeah,
not,
they're
not
all
the
just
program
everything.
itself.
They're all just tools.
Right.
They're all tools. Nothing you buy in a catalog or something is going to win you a Grammy or create a masterpiece or something. It's just a tool to get your inspiration moving and to get it down on whatever. You can do it with your iPhone. You can do it with your iPad.
Right.
Whatever. It's just they're all just tools. Drums are tools. Computers are tools.
I agree 100%. Like I said, I'm fiddling with a minimalist setup. I'm filming on an iPhone and I'm recording on an iPad. So I just keep it as I have a Mac computer over there, but this setup just fit this need better than all that over there. So let me ask you this. Now that you're talking about electronics and whatnot, do you avoid using electronic drums on your recording, or you try to make everything on the actual acoustic drum? Does it make sense?
Oh yeah, no, I love electronics I would say almost as much as I love acoustic drums. I love electronics. I love programming. I like making my acoustic drums sound electronic with effects.
Right.
I love playing with loops. I love playing with triggers and samples and all sorts of things because it's like I've said this analogy in the past because I don't think a lot of drummers think this way. Like all of my friends that are excellent guitar players, they don't only play a nylon string classical guitar. They also have a Strat, a Les Paul. They have stomp boxes like pedal boards, and when they get called to do sessions or to go on tour, they can play a charango, they can play a banjo, they can play, a 12-string acoustic, they can play an electric, everything. Because they're just servicing the guitar world.
Absolutely.
And same thing with keyboardists. My piano player friends don't only show up and say, all I play is a Steinway grand piano. That's it. No, they play a B3 organ. They play a Wurlitzer, a Rhodes. They can play a Mellotron. They have synthesizers. They have
Nords.
Software samplers, Nords with laptops filled with their main stage racks of sounds. And then you have a guy playing a 4-piece kit back there who's like, this is all I do. I don't think drummers should be that way. I think drummers should be like, they get hired. They should be able to play percussion. They should be able to play drum set. They should be able to program beats. They should be able to play triggers and samples and all sorts of things. Anything that goes boom or pow, they should be able to do it.
Absolutely.
And, that's always how I've been. And I don't know, it's maybe partly curiosity. It's partly the music I listened to growing up. I'm not a traditionalist where all I do is play like a vintage bebop drum set and that's it. I'll play anything.
You play traditional grip and you don't see that much on the pop world.
But that's just because I love traditional grip. I
It's a
played in
lost
a,
art form, by the way.
it is, it is. I played in marching band, and I played in jazz band in high school. But I would say I play about at this point maybe 50-50 or even 60-40 matched grip now.
Okay.
I feel like now, I mean, I used to love traditional grip, and I was like 80% of the time I played traditional grip. And it's changed over the years where I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's the style of music I play or the way I play now, or who knows.
I mean
But
that you have videos on your YouTube channel playing massive arenas, playing traditional grip, and in my mind it's like, how in the world? Because when I played traditional grip, I did it in jazz band back in college and grad school. My elbow would hurt a little bit, but you were like slaying, like
well,
wow.
like one of my biggest influences when I was a kid was Stuart Copeland,
Oh yeah.
and
Oof.
if from the Police, for people who don't know, and he played traditional grip, and he slammed the cranked rim-shotted snare drum, and I'm like, I learned that motion of being able to like take a
Like
traditional grip over your head
uh
and
huh.
bring it down and hit a consistent rim shot. So I didn't play it like in like Max Roach or something. I wasn't playing like Philly Joe Jones traditional grip. I was playing like
Uh huh.
swinging over the head like a baseball bat
Right.
kind of thing. And but maybe I don't even play that way anymore. I don't play that loudly or that with my stick heights aren't like, you know, uh, in the stratosphere right now. So maybe I'm just changing the way I like to hear the drums and the way I like to play the drums. So I don't know.
So let me ask you this. I am now, let's say, a little over a year, I started fiddling with electronic drums as an electronic drum. At one point, when I first moved to New York in '09, I had an electronic drum set, but it was my practice drum set.
Sure.
It was not an instrument on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm fiddling with an electronic drum pad, I'm treating that as a instrument differently. I treat it differently than the drum set itself.
Hmm.
Do you feel that drum schools or music programs or even teachers themselves, I kind of like have that disconnect between this is drum set, this is electronic drumming, this is how they merge together?
Hmm. I am not, I think, qualified enough to answer that question because I can't think of many drum schools I've been to that have a program in electronic drumming. So, I mean, when I went to University of Miami, they were open to it. They were willing to explain a few things and teach you a few things, but they didn't have any courses in that.
Right.
So, and what you just said is an interesting thing because it's sort of what I like about electronics too. Is I don't like to sit down on a Roland TD-50 electronic drum set and try to make it sound like a vintage Gretsch bebop kit or something.
Right, or a
I
recording
I
custom or something like that.
Yeah, I actually like electronic drums to sound super electronic. I like them to sound like robotic or machine-like or like a beatbox or something. I want them to sound a way that I can't get my acoustic drums at the sound, you know? So when I play electronics, I actually tweak them to the point where they actually sound like an MPC drum machine or something.
Right. Yeah.
That's the sound I want out of it because my acoustic drums, it doesn't sound that way. So I know I have two flavors now. I have this cool rock, you know, kit, DW kit or whatever, and then I have this super robotic sounding electronic beatbox machine, which that's what I like. That's how I like using electronics.
I really would like to see. I'm an educator, by that's my trade. I teach middle school music and band and whatnot, and I would like to see music program going in that direction, like merging, especially these days of like the best example is you have a bunch of musicians sitting in their houses right now, and there's a big number of them that have no idea how to program drums or how to record themselves into a decent quality. Like those are the skills that should be teach in music school, or even private teachers should be doing these days, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
world that we're living today.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see Ash Sowan, for example, like he's one that took the whole Instagram scene and by storm.
Yeah. So well done, so humble about it too. Like he just has a little barn in England, and he plays great stuff. It sounds awesome,
I mean,
and
he made Grammy albums and the freaking,
yeah,
what is it, a windmill?
yeah. That's like some windmill cottage in the backyard of his farm, and no, it's pretty amazing. Not only the content he puts out, but the I guess how good it is, but also like how much appeal it has. You know,
Absolutely.
how many people love it. You know.
I mean, but the learning curve is steep. Like to go deep into the technology and say, I'm gonna take this one clip and I'm gonna sample it and I'm gonna assign it to this pad. Like you're a rolling artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that you. If an artist called me right now and says, Harold, we have this gig and these are the samples. Programming in your pad. Gig is next week. Will you be ready? I will have a hard time doing that. I'll get it
Yeah,
done, but I
the
will
learning
have
curve.
a hard time.
Yeah, the learning curve is steep, but that's why you have to start like baby steps, you know. And it was like if you're trying to learn how to speak English and you go from like learning letter A, learning letter B, learning letter C, and then someone says, "Now that's good enough. Now go give a speech at the UN." You know, that's a big jump. You know, maybe you should learn the rest of the alphabet first, and you know, learn how to make sentences, and before you give a public announcement or something. So I think, you know, learning electronics, you just have to learn little by little, just little by little. Everything. I mean, they still invent new things every day. You know, so I have to. You mentioned Luna. I mean. Ever since this quarantine, everyone's using Zoom now. So let me learn how to use Zoom. You know, for these conferences, every day they invent something new,
That,
and you have to learn how to do that. So if you say, "Oh, this is too much" or "This is too hard," it's going to be intimidating and overwhelming. But if you just say, "I'm going to learn just a little bit. I'm going to learn how to turn this thing on. I'm going to learn how to make a sound. I'm going to learn how to do this," it comes with time. I mean, I bought my parents laptops and iPhones a couple of years ago, and I'm like, they are never going to get this. But sure enough, they are like whizzing through this, this technology now. I am so impressed with them. They're 76 years old now, and they know how to use their iPhones and their laptops and everything.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned Zoom, I teach. Like I said, I teach middle school here in New York, and I had a meeting today with the principals trying to put together the graduation via Zoom. So it's just a new technology that we have to learn and figure out and work around and whatnot. Let me ask you this.
I mean, like, let me one more thing about the thing, like any like form of like modern drumming. Like I'm not saying like if you're doing some kind of traditional rumba thing or whatever, but like modern pop and rock drumming, it's all just boom boom pa, or
Right.
some version of that. Doom, psh, doom, doom, psh, or doom, psh, doom, doom, psh, something like that. So you're getting, whether it's on a bass drum and a snare drum, or on your iPad hitting a weird app, or hitting a pot in a pan, or whatever, you're basically trying to just make beats. You're trying to make beats, whatever. You just picked up a glass and you can make a beat on that glass if you want to.
Absolutely.
You know, so if you buy a Roland SPDSX, you're like, it might seem like, oh, there's so many things. Oh, I don't know what to. Just start off by just trying to make a beat on it.
Right.
Find a kick and snare sample and go, boom, 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 boom. You're like, oh, you're going to feel like a hero. I did it. You know, anytime you buy any new piece of gear, just see if you can, by the end of the day, just play some kind of beat on it, and you're going to feel great. Then you can learn all the other menus and all the other things and the tutorials and the manuals later, you know?
I mean, I'm just having a blast. I have a cat percussion, the KTP. What is it?
Mm-hmm.
KTP, the four zone.
Oh, yeah.
And I run it through GarageBand and I put some effects and whatnot, and I'm having a blast. And the people from CAD were so great that they sent me the pedals for me to try, and
nice.
I'm just having a good time.
Yeah.
And I learned how to run MIDI tracks using the pad itself.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting small. I'm just opening the door. I mean, the options, the the sky is the limit at this point. So
Totally. That's
yeah,
it. You should be having a blast. That's what it's about.
and that's my quarantine setup. Like, because of course, New York City, real estate is tight. I have this is my work area, and I would say 5 feet from me, I have a 4-year-old daughter. So I have her dollhouse right here, and her toys are right there. So, like, you make do with what you can, but experiencing an electronic drum set as an electronic drum itself and not trying to make it feel like an acoustic drum set, I think it's a mindset that a lot of us need to get over. This is not a drum set. This is a new instrument of its own, and we should treat it as such.
I think not everyone has to think that way, but it's the way I like it because it makes it more fun for me that way. If I treat it like, wow, this is like sort of like an acoustic drum set, but not as good, that's not going to be fun.
Right.
But if you say, this is a different, like you said, this is a different instrument, then you're like, oh, this is fun. Listen to this. It sounds like a bunch of oil drums. Like, like I'm playing garbage cans or something. This sounds really cool. And like all these weird samples that are in there. Explore them. It becomes fun.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, changing route a little bit. You studied with Tommy Igoe.
I did.
What is it like? Because Tommy Igoe is a very polarizing individual. He's an amazing drummer, but he's very polarizing. I never met him personally. I have nothing against him. I saw him playing Lion King. I remember the first time I came to New York as an adult. I was looking for grad schools, and me and my wife, we went to see Lion King, and he was playing the Lion King, and this guy killed. He's amazing.
Yeah.
What is he studying with Tommy?
Man, he's great. I mean, he was my drum teacher in high school because I grew up in New Jersey and he used to live in New Jersey, and he was friends with my high school band teacher. So when I asked my high school band teacher, he wanted me to be in the jazz band. I said, I think I need lessons. I was self-taught at that time. He's like, I'm going to hook you up with a teacher. So he introduced me to Tommy, and Tommy was my teacher from 15 to 18. And it was fantastic because he really motivated me. He really got me to take drums seriously. He really gave me a super crash course in like a bunch of different styles. We did marching, we did jazz, we did classical, we did reading, sight reading, everything. So by the time I was 18 and moved to Miami to go to music school, I think I was still probably the worst person at UM when I went there, but he at least got me in the door. Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have even gotten accepted if it weren't for him, So, so definitely my early years were great. I mean, now, I haven't studied with him since 1992 or something, but he's, that was an important part of my life, for sure.
Absolutely. Did he encourage you to play traditional?
No, not at all.
Because he's a traditional guy.
Yeah. Again, because of the jazz background and the marching background, he is for sure. But he plays matched equally as well, and he goes back and forth, no problem. He never, ever encouraged me to do it. He never suggested one was better than the other. I think, like I said before, I was a super fan of Steve Gadd, Vinnie Colaiuta, and Stuart Copeland. And I'm like, wow, I can't play like any of these guys, but they're all holding the stick traditionally, so I'm at least going to rob that. So right. I started playing traditional maybe about the age of 15 or 16. Okay. And then I played it pretty much nonstop from like 16 to maybe 16 to like 21. I didn't even ever do matched again. And now I went back and forth like 50-50 from that point on.
All right. Awesome, man. Brendan, I really appreciate you taking the time of this. I know you're busy doing your stuff. You have your family. You're staying home and whatnot. I just have talking about the Shakira tour, you do this all the time. You have the explosion pedal. Who doesn't want explosion pedal? Um,
I have no, I had no idea that people were actually going to think that was interesting.
Dude, it's an
And it's funny.
explosion pedal.
Let me explain something to you. That video that I did was so off the cuff because what it was for Drum Magazine.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was in San Francisco, and one of the writers from Drum Magazine asked if he can come out. No, we were just talking, and I'm like, "Hey, you want to come to my sound check? We can hang out." So, because sound check is a great time for me to hang out with other drummers. I said, "Come by,
absolutely.
I'll sneak you in the back door. We'll grab a bite, and we can like hang out on stage and talk about drums." So the guy from Drum Magazine came out, and we did a quick interview. Even like he had a little like recorder, and we talked. We had some questions and answers, and then he's like, "Hey, do you mind if I shoot a quick video of your drum set?" I'm like, "Sure, hit it." And then he's like, "Yeah, just talk about it." I'm like, "All right, left to right." I went this, and this. And that was it. And man, so many people tell me they've seen that video. We did that like in 1 minute without even talking about doing it. He's just like, "Hey, I'm just going to shoot a video of your drum set." And somehow I mentioned that I have a bunch of pedals on the floor, and the one on the far left, whenever I hit it, it just goes kaboom. People love that.
You have an explosion pedal. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a kid's dream. Like,
It is pretty wild. And I've tried to explain that what happens is a lot of the show is to click track to computers and
right.
things. But certain parts are not. Certain parts are just free. And usually like the ends of the songs are open, where there's no more click track, there's no more sequences, no more anything. So we just watch each other. I watch the guitarist, I watch Shakira, and like either the guitarist will raise up his guitar and go bow, or Shakira will like lift up her hands and go kapow, like she's conducting.
Uh-huh.
Or sometimes she'll run up onto a riser and she'll jump off the riser and go.
And you have to wait for the landing.
So, and there were some times where like confetti goes off and everything. So basically the whole crew, like there's a guy out front doing lights and there's a guy doing pyro. Everyone's watching her for like to jump off a riser, and we all go together, like that. So that's why I have that pedal. So when the guy hits the lights and the guy hits the confetti, I also have a sound that goes with that. So, so that's what that is, and I had no idea anyone would find that interesting.
I mean, but thank you for clarifying, because it's not that you're running pyro through your pedal. You just have an explosion sound in that actual pedal.
Exactly. So I can hit basically with my right foot, I can hit a bass drum.
Uh-huh.
With my left foot, I can hit a sample that goes kaboom. And with my hands, I can hit two cymbals. So my four limbs at the same time go like that when the exact moment that a guy pushes a button that sets off all the pyro, That's
nuts. That's insane.
Yeah, it's theatrics.
Yeah, of course. But it also goes back to the basic of music, that you're aware of everything that is happening around you. Like, there's no click, there's no program. You are just in the moment, ad lib, just seeing what's happening and following instruction from the, conductor, in this case, Shakira, or whoever is the artist at the moment. And that's it. You're just aware, you're present in the moment, playing the music. Serving to the music.
There is a piece of advice that I've given to people in the past, and basically, if you want to be useful, or you want to be needed, or you want to be as irreplaceable as possible in a job or a group or whatever, it's to be a problem solver. If you consider yourself a problem solver, not just a drummer, not just a guy or a girl who plays the drums, but you actually are a person who's going to, throughout the day, solve people's problems. You're going to be so needed and so useful. So everything that comes up throughout a rehearsal or throughout a concert or throughout a tour or anything, if you come up with answers for those problems, people are like, man, thank you. That's a good idea. So you always want to be that person who facilitates a solution to whatever. So if someone says, man, at this point, there's no sequence anymore. How are we going to get all these things to go off at the same time? We're like, well, let's figure it out. Let's figure out a way to sync everything up. The gig could be tiny. The gig could be huge. It could be not even a gig. It could be a travel day. It could be a hotel thing, a flight thing, or whatever. But I feel like if you're constantly asking yourself throughout the day, how can I be helpful? How can I solve problems that arise throughout the day? People are always going to want to have you around, employed in the band, the group, the job, the company, whatever it is. So that's the attitude I have. I don't sit around and say, you know what I want? I want a rolling pedal that goes kaboom. I never said that. I don't want any extra gear. I want a kick snare and a hi-hat. That's all I want. But everything else surfaces because they're solving problems or needs or vacancies that are happening throughout the rehearsal or the arrangement or the tour or whatever.
I mean, that's an amazing quote. At the end of the day, not just drummers, like as individuals, we should be problem solvers. My hobby is woodworking and making, the 3D printing and whatnot. And that's the thing, is problem solving. How can I, this is the outcome that I want. How can I get there? And as musicians and a professional, we should be able to do so. Absolutely. Let me ask you two more questions before we end. Have you learned some Spanish while touring with Shakira or Julio Iglesias?
Sí, hablo español.
Yeah. So
Todo español, sí.
So you forcing me to speak English all this time while we could have done this in Spanish?
Sí, sí. Pensaba que íbamos a hablar en español, pero no, es obvio que mi inglés es mejor, pero hablo español como un niño de kinder.
Nah, it's fine. Most respect by learning the language.
No, yeah, I speak Spanish, with my kid. I mean, no, I love the language and I practice all the time, but English is better for me.
Any particular food dish that you enjoy from like Spanish cuisine or Latin American cuisine?
Are you kidding me?
Hit
Everything.
Go for it.
Everything. Well, let's just pick a country. I've been to Puerto Rico probably 30 times, and of course, I like to go to Old San Juan and go to the La Iberia and get some mofongo.
Yes, sir.
And but I grew up in Miami, and that was mostly Cuban where I lived, and so I ate all those dishes, arroz con pollo, and all that stuff. But if I go to a little Argentinian neighborhood, I'm going to get some empanadas and un churrasco or
yep,
pife de lomo.
chimichurri. Yep.
Yeah, and then but I have a Colombian family, so that means maybe some sancocho and some almohábanas or what do you got, pan de bonos, and then but I mean if I go to Peru, like Lima, the seafood is insane.
Absolutely,
I've lived in Spain before, so I love all las tapas and all the Spanish food, and I don't know, everything.
You don't understand the struggle that you're putting me through right now. It is about to be 11 p.m. here. You know that before going to bedtime is not the wisest time to eat something.
No. I mean, I live in Los Angeles. A lot of Mexican food here, and I made my son this morning for breakfast chilaquiles.
Hell
and
yeah.
That's he's into that kind of stuff. So, no, I mean, basically, moving from New Jersey to Miami was a huge culture shock for me. I'm of Korean and Irish descent, so I didn't have a drop of
Korean,
Latino.
Irish. Wow, that's an interesting blend.
Yeah, but I loved Miami, and I loved all of the Latin American friends I made down there. The music, the culture, the food, everything, and I basically absorbed it. I couldn't get enough of it. So obviously the language is important to me. The food, the culture, the history, the geography.
I mean, it's that immersion. To me, it was the opposite. I moved from Puerto Rico here, and I have to learn the music, the language, traditional jazz, how to speak English, how to have the etiquette type thing.
Mm-hmm. Where did you live in Puerto Rico?
San Juan.
San Juan, yeah.
Yes, born and raised.
Yeah.
Still go there every other year to visit my mom and my siblings and whatnot.
Dude, I have a soft spot in my heart for Puerto Rico.
Dude.
I love I've gone to San Juan, and you got like Ocean Park and Isla Verde and Viejo San Juan. But then I went all around, like what's it called, like that Ponce Festival in the bottom of the country. And
my wife is from Ponce, yeah.
Yeah, the justas, right? Is that what that was?
Justas, yes.
Yeah, and then the El Yunque.
Yes.
El Yunque, the rainforest there, and then
Beautiful.
Aguadilla,
Aguadilla.
Mayagüez.
I've been telling to my wife, if we ever buy a property, it has to be like on that west coast, so we can go and disconnect and just have a relaxed time by the beach and whatnot. Man, Brendan, it's been an amazing time speaking to you. I really appreciate this time. Just like you are, I'm a big Firth and Sabian artist, so it's super cool that we have this in common.
Nice.
By the way, what's your sticker preference right now?
My sticker preference right now is my sticker preference since I was 15 years old. A Vic Firth 5A. I've basically been using a Vic Firth 5A my whole life.
No
every time
way.
every time I experiment with anything else, I just go back because that just feels like the perfect stick to me. So, I mean, I use the black colored one and I use the white colored one, but it's still a Vic Firth 5A. And my signature sticks are just a 5A. You know?
Okay. Nylon tip or wood tip?
Wood tip.
Ah.
Last time I used a nylon tip stick was when Omar Hakim had his signature sticks come out, and I tried them out. But I mean, I feel like I like the sound and the bounce and the way wood tips wear.
I never purchased voluntarily. No, I never purchased. Period. A nylon tip pair. The only I have half a brick of Steve Gadd's because my professor in grad school, he was like, "Congratulations, you finish you're about to graduate. Here's a half brick of Steve Gadd's."
The Steve Gadd's comes with nylon tips also.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've only had the wood tips. Yeah, the ones that kind of have that kind of what's it, kind of almost rectangle like kind of tip.
No, I have the black one with the nylon tip. And
oh wow!
Like, thank you. I love you. You're my mentor. I don't think I see myself using this. Right now, I'm rocking. What do I have here? And I ordered this one by mistake, actually. The Greg Bissonets. And they're like 5Bs pretty much. Yeah. But I sent an email to Joe Testa. I want, in my mind, I was ordering the Benny Grebs BG, but I ordered the GB, the Greg Bissonets. But I love it. I love it. Super cool.
I went through a phase where I experimented with a lot of sticks. And I had like really thin ones for jazz playing and light like folk playing, really heavy ones for hard rock and heavy metal. And I had different setups and, everything. And I had like a kind of some kind of like maturation or revolution in my playing where I'm like, I'm going to stop being a chameleon as much. I'm going to just pick one seat height, one snare drum height, one like cymbal height, one pair of sticks, and I'm going to try to play every style of music with this setup. And even my drum sets, they might look different. They might look like a gigantic spaceship in one photo and then a tiny one in another. They're all basically, I always play a 4-piece kit, kick, snare, hi-hat, rack tom, floor tom, ride cymbal, and 2 crashes. I always play that, and everything else is just an add-on from that. Same stick, same seat height, same snare height, same everything, and the same sticks. And I feel like that helped me kind of just develop my style a little better, my sound a little better when I wasn't constantly changing everything, like depending on the style of music. Now I'm really high, now I'm really low. Now my pedal's really tight, now it's really loose.
Right.
I just kind of leave everything, and I just change my own approach to drums. And that's why I went with a 5A, because it was just light enough to play light music, but just heavy enough to play heavy music. Obviously, a bigger stick does something different. I was hanging out with Thomas Lang once, and he showed me his sticks, and they're huge.
Ooh, those are marching stuff.
They're like marching sticks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, how do you play with this? He goes, well, listen to the sound of my floor toms. And he hit his floor toms. And I'm like, holy cow, those sound so much bigger than when I hit them with 5As.
Absolutely.
But then cymbals sound a little weird. It's like the bigger sticks you have, the weirder they sound on cymbals, but the better they sound on toms, So you have to have a trade-off.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with the cymbal height thing. With the throne height. I have a throne here, and I have a throne at my school where I get my drum set. And before I took that throne to my school, I put it side by side. I make sure they're the same height. Because seriously, I need to have some consistency in posture and the way that I approach the instrument.
I do a lot of one-offs, like basically that meaning like I do concerts where someone flies me to Beijing to play one show and I come back. And I'll go there and everything will be rental. I go with my passport, my in-ear monitors, and a pair of sticks. And I go over and I show up and it's a drum tech I've never met before. And what I do is I just send them a photo of a kit and I send them measurements, heights.
Right.
That's all. I said, I don't care what you get. They're like, well, we can't get the DW Jazz series. We can only get the collectors. I'm like, I don't care. Yeah, whatever. They don't have the ambassador coated. They only have the emperors. That's fine. I don't care. Really, I don't care. Just get the snare drum this high, the seat this high, the hi-hat this high, and I'll be fine. That's it. Because that's more consistent than, for me, is like, the height of the drums.
Absolutely.
You can then at that point you can sit down and play with your eyes closed. No matter what drum set it is.
I mean, at this point, gear-wise, even the quote-unquote low-end products, they sound really good compared to 20 years ago when I started playing drums. I mean,
man, it's great. It's great.
It is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, right behind me on the wall is that that Pacific PDP
Yes.
maple, what's it called, concept maple. I mean, I use that here in the studio all the time now. I mean, that's their low-end beginner drum set from DW, and it sounds great.
I mean, that was my first drum when I went to college. I bought myself a PDP.
Yeah.
And I went 5 years to college with that drum set and sessions and gigs. That drum set went through a lot. Yeah.
It's probably the best value you can get out of a new drum set is to get a PDP.
I agree. Even the hardware is pretty solid.
Oh yeah.
Brendan, it's been a pleasure doing this. I can't express how much I've learned. Like I told you before recording, this is like pretty much private lessons for me that I get to share. And it's 11 p.m. here in New York, and I don't know if I should practice a little bit or go to sleep and practice tomorrow morning. It's a hard thing to decide.
Oh, cool. Well, I want to thank you for reaching out because you reached out to me on social media, and it was a pleasure to meet you. And I went, after chatting with you, I went to iTunes and checked out your podcasts, and I was like, oh, this sounds quality. I would love to chat with you.
Appreciate it.
So it was nice to meet you and nice to talk about drums with you. And I wish you tons of luck with everything you're working on.
Thank you. If you're ever in New York, I would love to buy you a coffee or any drink preferences that you have. Tea, beer, and we can keep talking about that later.
We can have a tea, coffee, beer smoothie.
Hell yeah, I'm down for that. Or I think I'm hitting PASIC this year. I know you did PASIC like last year.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to Mike Dawson in his podcast saying like that your clinic was like, this is a working musician must. Like what you explained in that PASIC clinic was like, this is what every working musician should know how to do. And it was like, I was inspired by that. And I didn't see your clinic.
It's really nice of him to say that because that means a lot coming from him.
Yeah, Mike Dawson is great. So
I did a 1 hour clinic on just basically how to improve your timekeeping.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's such an evasive topic. Like how do you improve your timekeeping? I mean, it's really hard to define. So I try to come up with actual tactical ways to do that,
Definitely. So I'm going to put all your social media links down below, your YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter, everything. Corillo, sigan a Brendan Buckley down below. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.